In the last video, we walked through the wave of criticism directed at the NewJeans members, how Korean journalists saw their behavior as rude, entitled, and completely out of sync with industry norms. But if that was chapter 1, then chapter 2 is unavoidable because every time the members made some controversial move, there was always one person standing behind the entire situation. And this time, the spotlight is on Min Hee-jin. Korean journalists have been unloading on her over the past week. Not lightly or politely at all, but with the level of frustration that has been building for nearly a year. And they're calling out her contradictions, her framing tactics, her attempts to rewrite the narrative, and the long trail of damage that she left behind. So if the last video showed how the members lost their goodwill, this one shows how Min Hee-jin exhausted hers long before anyone else. So in this video, we're gonna read through the news articles one by one, break down what Korean reporters are actually saying, and why their patience finally snapped. Okay? And yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're gonna go through 7 articles. They talk about different stuff. So I, selected those and assembled. Let's start here. Min Hee-jin made other people's daughters cry, yet she says, "Don't drag NewJeans in." Public turns cold at her contradictory attitude. Published on November 17th by 10 Asia, reporter Kim Ji-won. It starts with a quotation from Min Hee-jin. "The core issue is aimed at me, but don't drag the girls into it. They should be protected, not used." This is what Min Hee-jin, former ADOR CEO, said in the second statement she released on the 16th. She added, "NewJeans becomes complete only when all 5 are together. Their unique colors and voices interlock to form one whole. Now that they have returned, the 5 should be treasured. Needless controversy and interpretation only hurt them." The article says, on the surface, it sounds rational and correct. But it's hard not to question it. She is the very person who triggered the entire situation, yet now she's the one asking everyone to stay calm. Min Hee-jin is no longer NewJeans' producer. After she was dismissed as CEO, ADOR offered her a board position so she could continue producing for the group. It was Min Hee-jin who rejected the offer. From that moment, NewJeans' production became ADOR's responsibility. Someone who is no longer part of ADOR has no authority to comment on the group's member situation. As for Minji, Honey, and Danielle, the sincerity of their decision to return has not yet been confirmed. On the afternoon of the 12th, ADOR officially announced heading... I'm going to skip that because we all know that. By the way, according to an article that came out today on November 20th, Minji and Danielle had finished their meetings with ADOR recently. But Honey has not participated yet because she's allegedly still staying in Antarctica. Anyways, back to the article. But yeah, the article is basically summarizing what has happened a week ago, right? ADOR announced that Haerin and Hae's return on the 12th. After the announcement, the remaining 3 members stated that they too intended to return, but they did so through the law firm Hanier, not through ADOR. Their announcement came about 2 hours and 30 minutes after ADOR's statement. ADOR responded by saying that it was confirming their true intentions, and since this was not coordinated with the agency, ADOR naturally took a cautious stance. Now, originally, the 3 members refused to bend even after losing the court battle, the article says. Their notice of return was given long after that. Throughout that process, there was no discussion or communication with ADOR. Even after the court granted ADOR's injunction in March prohibiting the members from independently entering management or advertising contracts, they continued making sharp statements. It's hard to say they fully accepted the ruling. Min Hee-jin insists all 5 members should be cherished, but the 3 members showed little respect for ADOR's rights or the court's judgment. During the conflict between ADOR and Min Hee-jin, NewJeans stepped forward and spoke out publicly. When they declared contract termination, all but Haerin and Hae were legal adults, meaning old enough to take responsibility for their decisions. Hani even attended the National Assembly audit last October, claiming that Eilert from HYBE's Belief Lab had excluded her by not greeting her. But once the details surfaced, that claim lost credibility. Min Hee-jin calls the 5 NewJeans members children who must be protected. Yet, she herself dragged other young artists into her fight with ADOR. She accused Eilert of plagiarizing NewJeans. She added, "Eilert isn't the problem. I'm not criticizing the members. It's the adults who made them copy who are at fault." But the ones who suffered were the Eilert members, who had to debut with the plagiarism group label, facing cold stares and ridicule from the public. And that wasn't the end, article says. Min Hee-jin also argued that NewJeans didn't debut as HYBE's first girl group because of the Seraphim, even mentioning certain members by name. And by that, the article refers to Chaewon and Sakura's names. She mentioned their names multiple times. Public sentiment toward Le Seraphim got worse each day. Malicious comments poured in, forcing members to close their comment sections. One member later revealed that she cried during a solo concert. And solo concert? Le Seraphim concert. So by that, the article means when the members read their handwritten letters during their Incheon concert at the start of their Easy Crazy Hot tour. Okay. So it was Yoonjin later revealed that she cried and called staff asking, "What do we do now? Do we even have a future?" The article says, hurting other artists openly to gain advantage, then insisting NewJeans must be protected. People are shaking their heads. Lenient toward herself, strict toward others. The public cannot relate to a standard that shifts depending on the situation. Online K-pop communities are overflowing with criticism toward Min Hee-jin. At this point, Min Hee-jin needs to restraining herself. She must realize that every time she speaks, it creates more noise and confusion around the remaining 3 members' return. The appropriate stance for the former producer is to step back and allow the 3 members to communicate smoothly with ADOR, says the journalist Kim Ji-won. But of course, we know that that's not going to happen because for Min Hee-jin, her priority is not the members. It's always herself. But yeah, the journalist starts with a very blunt accusation, right? Min Hee-jin caused pain to other young girl groups while telling everyone not to use NewJeans. And honestly, Koreans have not forgotten the Eilert incident, because that almost destroyed it basically destroyed a rookie group's reputation overnight. Then the Le Seraphim, the claims made things worse. So this hypocrisy is the main reason why journalists feel zero sympathy for Min Hee-jin at this point. And when the article describes the 3 members' return notice as unilateral, we understood that as rudeness, not independence. And that distinction matters in Korea to journalists and the general public. Ignoring the agency, ignoring the court order, and declaring things through a law firm looks arrogant. It's not brave. So, and that theme, Min Hee-jin's contradictions and the members' lack of professionalism continues in the next piece, which zooms out to the bigger picture of how this entire mess ever happened. This one is titled, NewJeans and Min Hee-jin. Interference and involvement. Reporter Yoon Hae-young. November 18th, it was published on. After declaring in November last year that their exclusive contract, I'm going to skip this part. Enter a prolonged legal battle against ADOR. Yep, this part. Another chapter in the saga has begun. But after losing the first trial and announcing their return, a new situation has emerged. A split between 2 members and 3 members, and an outpouring of criticism against Min Hee-jin. Another chapter in the saga has begun. The question is, can NewJeans truly return as a complete group? Good question. At this point, I have some doubt about that. The article says, through attorney No Young-hee, Min Hee-jin stated on November 15th, from the beginning, the picture was built around the 5. Everything, I'm going to skip this part. It was her statements that we have already talked about, right? Now, attorney No, and I have already talked about this person in my previous video. She was the attorney who defended Min Hee-jin on her own YouTube channel, and then appeared on a very popular political YouTube channel called Meburcho, and she requested a debate on NewJeans issue, and that channel, their own subscribers really criticized her and the channel itself for coming up with such content without preparation. Meburcho NewJeans. Yeah. All right, back to the article. So the article is talking about her, that attorney. So attorney No Young-hee added that Min Hee-jin found it strange that ADOR had created a 2 versus 3 situation. On the afternoon of the 12th, ADOR announced the return of Hae and Hae, blah blah blah. We already know that. 5 or 6 days later, ADOR still has not stated an official position on the 3 returning members. Min Hee-jin appears to be pointing out this ambiguity. Yet, the public sentiment toward both NewJeans and toward Min Hee-jin's unconditional support of them is still negative. Why is that? Where did things start to go wrong and how? Let's go back 6 years. After leaving SM Entertainment, Min Hee-jin joined Big Hit Entertainment, which is now HYBE, on July 1st, 2019, as a creative director overseeing the launch of a new girl group and all branding responsibilities. HYBE chairman Bang Xiao founded ADOR in 2021 and appointed Min Hee-jin as CEO, placing her in charge of launching NewJeans. She succeeded spectacularly. Min Hee-jin's planning ability deserves recognition. The fact that all 5 members consistently ignored HYBE, a massive corporation, and Bang Xiao himself choosing instead to follow Min Hee-jin unconditionally shows how deep their trust in her was. However, Min Hee-jin is a producer, not a creator. Planning and creating are different roles. This is Min Hee-jin's first major misunderstanding. Interesting. Compare Min Hee-jin to figures like composer-producer Yoon Il-sang or JYP Park Jin-young, who often offer warm encouragement or sharp advice on their YouTube channels regarding NewJeans and Bang Xiao. That's not referring to JYP, but the article is talking about Yoon Il-sang, the producer-composer. Yeah, this guy has talked about NewJeans openly and very critically on his own YouTube channel. So I quite respect him. So the article says, Yoon Il-sang has offered warm encouragement or sharp advice on his YouTube channel regarding NewJeans. And also Bang Xiao, he talked about him in a respectful tone though. Now, these 2 people, Yoon Il-sang and Park Jin-young, of course, we all know who Park Jin-young is, JYP. The article says, these 2 people write lyrics, compose, arrange, perform, and produce. They handle every part of the creative and production process. They are fully fledged producers. Min Hee-jin, however, Sorry. Min Hee-jin, however, is someone who plans the album's concept, the choreography style, the team image, and the group's world building. Yang Hyun-seok of YG differs from Park Jin-young because he did not display the same level of talent in creation. Yang Hyun-seok. Yep, the founder of YG Entertainment. The article says, does Min Hee-jin have planning ability on the level of Yang Hyun-seok? And if she had worked at a mid-sized company instead of SM or HYBE, could she have created something like Red Velvet or NewJeans? What would have happened without HYBE's massive financial backing and institutional power? HYBE is the only entertainment company classified as a full major conglomerate in Korea. This means the company's strength is its huge and solid system, not one or two brilliant individuals. In other words, HYBE functions well even without Pang Xiao. This is the organizational reason HYBE could demote and remove Min Hee-jin without hesitation when she rebelled. Of course, even the Beatles, the greatest rock band in history, worked with the legendary producer George Martin. But could George Martin have created a band of that magnitude without the unique songwriting duo of Lennon and McCartney? Does Min Hee-jin believe she succeeded purely on her own talent, ignoring HYBE's infrastructure and support? The article says, Min Hee-jin held a press conference last April declaring all-out war against HYBE after already making statements that seemed to belittle or distance herself from Pang Xiao. During her two press conferences, she portrayed herself as a freedom fighter, and NewJeans openly stood by her. Their declaration of contract nullification last November was a culmination of that. If Min Hee-jin didn't drag NewJeans into the conflict, then who did? NewJeans publicly aligned themselves with her and followed her lead. So who exactly pulled the children into the adult fight? Who failed to protect the children and instead used them? Hae-in and Hae and ADOR need to take clear positions. The article says. The victims of the NewJeans situation include HYBE and ADOR shareholders and staff. NewJeans, Islet, LE SSERAFIM, and their fans. Most of the internal damage can be resolved through apologies and communication. But the fans who were hurt and upset need a different form of healing. I would say I would add Korean people to this list of the people who got affected negatively because of the National Assembly issue, Hani National Assembly audit issue, and the BBC interview calling Korea, like saying that Korea is turning us into revolutionaries after losing the court battle, saying that look, this is the reality of Korea, how pathetic the society is. I mean, they didn't really use the words pathetic, but they said specifically that the Korean society is turning us into revolutionaries. Anyways, the article says, ADOR, Hae-in, and Hae should first apologize to their fans and promise community-oriented activities. Then, Min Hee-jin and NewJeans should bow their heads to Islet and LE SSERAFIM, groups they criticized negatively during their break from ADOR, and to the fans who were hurt by that discourse. Actually, the article says this in the past tense. Like ADOR, Hae-in, and Hae should have first apologized to their fans and promised community-oriented activities. Then Min Hee-jin and NewJeans should have bowed their heads to Islet and LE SSERAFIM, and to the fans who were hurt by that discourse. From what we can see now, Hae-in and Hae have effectively surrendered. they have withdrawn their earlier stance and signaled willingness to return to ADOR's policies and resume activities diligently. ADOR seems to have recognized their sincerity, as reflected in their promise to fully support them. So why is ADOR still confirming the status of Daniel, Honey, and Minji? Rumors say the three members still want Min Hee-jin restored, clinging to their previous stance. Considering ADOR has not embraced them immediately, that rumor does not seem impossible. At the very least, it seems the three are proposing options that ADOR finds hard to accept. Last year, NewJeans actively participated in Min Hee-jin's conflict with HYBE. Now, two members have fully stepped back, and three have partially stepped back. Yet Min Hee-jin is now criticizing ADOR, asking why the company created a 2 versus 3 structure when she herself once pulled all 5 into the dispute. How can she involve them in a fight one moment and then interfere in ADOR's internal affairs the next? K-pop fans in Korea and around the world already saw a similar case with 50/50. The 4 members attempted to invalidate their exclusive contract with Attract, sparking litigation. Attract won, and member Kina eventually surrendered and returned to the company. Attract then fired the other 3 members and relaunched 50/50 with 4 members for a second generation. Oh, that's how the article ends. So, boom. So the Korean industry at this point sees Min Hee-jin as someone who overestimated her own creative power. At least that's what the article suggests. And the journalist directly compares her to people like JYP, Yoon Il-sung, and Yang Hyun-suk of YG, all actual creators, and asks the question that the industry people have been whispering. Like, would Min Hee-jin have succeeded without SM's training system or HYBE's infrastructure behind her? And they also point out the biggest contradiction, right? Min Hee-jin dragged all 5 members into the fight and publicly weaponized their loyalty, yet she's now saying, don't drag the kids into it. So that contradiction shows up in almost every article. And the section about apologizing to Islet and Le Sserafim is, yeah. I mean, I guess in Korea, many people expect emotional responsibility, not just legal responsibility. And many people feel that the group, NewJeans members and Min Hee-jin, have shown none of that, none of emotional responsibilities and legal responsibilities. Now, I might talk about this in a separate video, but Islet and Le Sserafim fandoms sent protest trucks to HYBE headquarters. Last time it was Le Sserafim fandom in Korea, and this time I think it was a Chinese or international fandoms, like international Glitz of Islet and Fear Not of Le Sserafim sent trucks, protest trucks to HYBE building. And these guys don't even want apologies. And I said this last time. The people who suggest or recommend that NewJeans apologize to these different parties are the ones who actually want them to do well in their careers. And who believe that it's super regrettable, the situations that they push themselves into. But the actual victims do not even want the apologies, which is why it's a super tricky situation for ADOR and HYBE. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, if ADOR, since there are the agency for NewJeans, and if the ADOR is pushing the members, at least like Haedin and Hain, into like apologizing and if they write some sort of apology statements on their behalf and have them read or something, I think that might backfire. I mean, it might work, but the public would figure out whether they mean it or not. So I think unless the members are super sincere about their apologies, they might as well just not do it altogether. If it's just for the sake of performance, you know what I'm saying? I feel conflicted about that. The concept of apologies. Now, and speaking of emotional responsibility, the next commentary piece, this one, written by a cultural critic, goes even further, calling both Min Hee-jin and the fandom out. They're calling out bunnies directly. Okay? So here's a piece titled, The Absurdity of the NewJeans Fandom and Min Hee-jin, published on November 18th. As NewJeans, the group that plunged the K-pop scene into chaos, announced their intention to return to their agency, a new controversy erupted. 3 of the members declared their return unilaterally without any consultation with the agency, appearing to pressure the company. ADOR said it would verify their intentions and prepare meetings, considering that NewJeans had repeatedly made claims the court did not accept at all, and even declared a unilateral contract termination. The agency has no way of knowing what problems may arise in the future unless genuine remorse is confirmed. Naturally, ADOR has no choice but to proceed cautiously. Meanwhile, Min Hee-jin's position was reported in the press. I'm going to skip that. The absurd part is, the article says, that it was Min Hee-jin herself who dragged the kids into this, quote-unquote kids. From the very beginning, she repeatedly brought up NewJeans, and many people expressed concern. Pulling artists into a mudslinging fight can only hurt them, yet she paid no mind. ADOR, in contrast, focused a strong response entirely on Min Hee-jin. It was extremely restrained in responding to NewJeans. True. The agency only responded after NewJeans declared contract termination, and even then, the response was merely to confirm that the exclusive contract was still valid. Normally, such dispute would escalate into penalty and damages lawsuits, but ADOR held back because NewJeans is one of its most important assets for ADOR. Well, since it's their only artist. But Min Hee-jin spoke freely about NewJeans and even their parents. During the appeal hearing for the injunction, the court noted that Min Hee-jin had sought ways to leave HYBE's control with NewJeans or to place ADOR under her independent control, saying she was in a position that destroys the foundation of ADOR and the members' integrated structure. In the main lawsuit, the court even stated that Min Hee-jin used the parents of NewJeans members while preparing for a public opinion battle. Everyone was dragged into the mud. If the 3 members return without remorse and start revealing things again, it would trigger Mud Fight Part 2. That is why ADOR is being careful. It is baffling that Min Hee-jin, who is seen as the cause of much of this, says don't drag the kids into it. Her comments, appearing in the media, feel like an attempt to frame the narrative as ADOR uses the kids, but I protect them. It fuels suspicion that Min Hee-jin is using NewJeans for her own advantage. As noted earlier, it was ADOR that protected the kids so much that it didn't even pursue damages. The behavior of parts of the NewJeans fandom is also baffling. When Min Hee-jin first brought up NewJeans, their fans should have kept her in check, but instead, they cheered her on and pulled the group deeper into the mud. Well, to be fair and accurate, some fans really try to, criticize her and try to, make the initiative to force her to stop. But then some say that it was probably part of Min Hee-jin's strategy to influence the fandom and fandom committees, because like the leaders of like fandom galleries, online galleries, kicked them out. Whoever opposed them and whoever opposed Min Hee-jin. So it kind of became like a, like dictatorship style community society. Yeah. And the rest of them who remained cheered them on, right? And cheered Min Hee-jin on. The article says, later, when the NewJeans members themselves stepped in, fans welcomed it instead of stopping them. Encouraged, the members made the worst decision possible, unilaterally declaring their contract terminated. Fans supported that as well. When ADOR held back in its response because it wanted to protect its asset NewJeans, these fans mocked ADOR's cautious attitude and misled the group even further. Yeah, so for those of you who are watching this video and are still supporting Min Hee-jin and NewJeans in what they're doing, you are the ones who have hurt the group. The article says, recently a statement from the same fandom was reported, saying things like, the past year had meaning. 지난 1년에 의미가 있었다. There was no recognition of wrongdoing or any remorse. They even demanded producing capabilities from ADOR. Is this really the time for them to demand things from ADOR? For HYBE, maintaining a relationship with such a fandom after accepting NewJeans back puts a heavy burden on the company. Yep. And many of you watching this video, my subscribers, have expressed this idea as well, right? If you accept NewJeans, you are accepting this fandom as well. And is that a good thing? And the article says, some of these fans severely attacked other HYBE artists, causing enormous harm. Without remorse, such behavior could easily happen again. I agree. In the fandom's recent statement, they questioned ADOR's impure intentions regarding reports that the agency might not accept certain members back. They're stirring controversy by doubting ADOR even over normal news commentary and logical speculation. Some NewJeans supporters even amplified absurd claims that HYBE is a cult or that HYBE tried to sabotage NewJeans' activities. After the Min Hee-jin NewJeans incident, one-sided and extreme voices gained dominance and shook the entire K-pop industry. Now is the time to restore common sense and reestablish order. True remorse from the NewJeans faction would be the starting point. NewJeans 세력. It's notable that how the journalists use the word faction, NewJeans faction. Yeah, so this article is devastating. I mean, the critic flat out says Min Hee-jin used the members, and the members followed her recklessly, and the fandom cheered them into their worst decisions. And, if you notice the language, it used like absurd, no remorse, misled, or burden on the industry. Overall, did the article also talk about 50-50? No. But and at the very end, it talks about the remorse, right? The last article talked about apologies, but this one talks about remorse. But it's not just cultural critics. Even mainstream broadcasters are tearing apart Min Hee-jin's narrative now. Okay, so let's move on to this one. Titled, "If you really love NewJeans, you have no right to say things like that." 최욱 blast Min Hee-jin from 매불쇼. 매불쇼 최욱. So he's the host of this super popular political broadcast. I think they have like over 3 million subscribers or something. Okay, close to 3 million subscribers. And that's where this attorney had a debate about NewJeans' case defending Min Hee-jin. And Cheuk really criticized Min Hee-jin and even attorney No to some degree. And this article talks about that. Broadcaster Cheuk delivered a sharp criticism of Min Hee-jin. On the 17th, the YouTube channel Mebusho uploaded a video titled NewJeans Return Issue, stirring up a hornet's nest. Attorney No Young-hee explained, on October 30th, the court ruled that the exclusive contract between NewJeans and ADOR is still valid. After that, 2 members said blah blah blah, blah blah blah. She continued, but for the remaining 3 members, ADOR said they needed to confirm blah blah blah. Min Hee-jin's side thought all 5 would naturally return together since the court ruled the contract is valid and the appeal deadline passed. So they wondered, or she said, Min Hee-jin wondered why ADOR created a 3 versus 2 situation instead of accepting all of them. Yep, this woman really tried to defend her. And it sounded like Min Hee-jin personally reached out to this attorney and gave her the police report on her case. And I saw some, delusional Min Hee-jin supporters saying that, look, the police report says that Min Hee-jin is innocent. But if you actually look at what the police report that she attached says, it basically says what Min Hee-jin allegedly said during the investigation. So it just has no value at all. Attorney No added, Min Hee-jin said things like, NewJeans is complete only when there are 5, and I worked hard with all 5, so it's sad. She also said she didn't want the members to suffer disadvantages because of her. I'm not here to defend Min Hee-jin. Haha, you're right. She initially asked our law firm to represent her, but as the situation grew bigger and I felt I wouldn't be able to fully commit, I withdrew. After that, since she claimed she was being treated unfairly, I decided to talk about what exactly seems unfair on the show. Previously, through the No Young-hee TV channel, Min Hee-jin stated, the real target is me, but please don't drag the kids into this. The kids must be protected and not used. NewJeans exist when it's 5. In response, Cheuk, the host of the show, said, the lawyers can talk about the legal issue, but from an ethical perspective, I don't think Min Hee-jin has any right to say things like that. She used the members of NewJeans in an attempt to win her case. There's no way to avoid her ethical responsibility for that. He added, does she really have the right to say such things? If she truly cherished the members, she wouldn't have acted this way. Even if the members wanted to work with her and admire her, if she truly cared, she should have said, you cannot behave like this. Especially now, you must stay steady and prove yourselves with even better work for the fans. Cheuk continued, Min Hee-jin says NewJeans is like her own children and that she wanted to support them more, but she was upset because the company didn't let her. But what's better? The group shining a little less because support wasn't perfect, or losing all of their shine altogether because the situation exploded? ADOR even dismissed her as CEO, but still offered her 5 years of producing work. She refused. If she really wanted NewJeans to shine, couldn't she have swallowed her pride and continued producing? Was she born a CEO? She basically exploded. And he says that he used to really like NewJeans. And I'm not sure whether he completely follows this case and understand to what extent NewJeans members are also responsible for a lot of things that happened. But at least during the broadcast, she criticized Min Hee-jin harshly. Basically. And Choi emphasized, NewJeans is not only ADOR's asset, but also a major asset of Korea's K-pop industry. When something like this happens, the entire industry's value drops. A company invests enormous effort and capital to create a group like NewJeans. We have to talk about this because another incident like this cannot be allowed to harm the K-pop industry again. If you visit, which one is it? Go watch the video, their debates, NewJeans debates. There are a lot of commenters criticizing Attorney No. A lot of people actually, praise Cheok's response because it was clear that Cheok has been following the case more closely than this woman, and he successfully criticized Min Hee-jin in a controlled manner during the broadcast. And if you think about it, the host, where is he? This guy isn't some HYBE defender, and his logic is simple. If Min Hee-jin truly believed the members were children who must be protected, she would have kept them out of the legal spotlight, out of the National Assembly, and out of the contract termination press tour. Instead, she let them walk directly into a career-damaging situation. And his question, was Min Hee-jin born a CEO? That resonated heavily with Korean viewers because pride and hierarchy matter here. And refusing a producing role because your ego is bruised, that reads as selfish. But of course, Min Hee-jin, producer role wasn't enough. In fact, maybe it didn't really even matter because she had a much bigger plan and ambitions. Now, next, we move to a piece about Min Hee-jin's framing narrative and why journalists are calling it deceptive. Titled, "Why Are They Making Two Jeans? Min Hee-jin's Deceptive Framing Misleads the Public." Where are we? Right here. HYBE said it needed to verify the sincerity. I'm going to skip this part. She said she felt sorry about it. The fact that why did ADOR create a 3 versus 2 split, accepting some, not accepting others? That statement came from attorney No Young-hee, who has been closely aligned with former ADOR CEO Min Hee-jin. It reflects Min Hee-jin's position as conveyed through her 2 public statements. In effect, No Young-hee expressed Min Hee-jin's dissatisfaction with ADOR for supposedly creating a 2 versus 3 structure. 2 members who coordinated with ADOR beforehand, and 3 who announced their return later. But the contradiction is obvious. It is a deliberate reversal of cause and effect, a textbook tactic to muddy the waters. ADOR never created a 2 versus 3 split. They simply responded differently to 2 entirely different methods of declaring intent to return. When the actions are different, the reactions will naturally differ. Hae-in and Hae-in spent about a week in close, detailed conversation. Yep, we already talked about that. But for Minji and Honey and Danielle, they issued a unilateral notice. Since they ignored the company entirely, ADOR had no choice but to respond. We are verifying their sincerity. It is the only logical reaction. At minimum, they needed the same negotiation process that Hae-in and Hae-in had, discussing what each side would give, take, and restore. So the 2 versus 3 structure did not come from ADOR. It is the natural consequence of the 3 members choosing unilateral notification rather than waiting for ADOR's reply. Fans and the general public clearly understand this sequence of events. The appearance of terms like 2 jeans and 3 jeans on online communities is proof enough. It is highly unlikely that Min Hee-jin is incapable of understanding the difference between a negotiated return and unilateral declaration. Her narrative reads as intentional disregard. She remains silent on the 3 members' rude approach, yet targets ADOR by focusing solely on the 2 versus 3 splits. The intention is transparent. Recently, Min Hee-jin said NewJeans must be protected and not used. If she truly saw herself as a NewJeans mom, she should have worked behind the scenes to ensure all five return together, instead of letting the group split into two factions. Given how publicly close Min Hee-jin, the members, and families were, it is contradictory to now place responsibility solely on ADOR. The reason public opinion no longer trusts Min Hee-jin is because people question her motive. Throughout the dispute, Min Hee-jin exposed NewJeans to a range of risk, forcing them to attend emergency press conferences, appear in court, and directly involve themselves in the conflict. This damaged their image as artists. If she genuinely cared for them, she should have stopped it. The reason people doubt her protect the kids messaging is that her actions over the past year contradict every word she says. This situation resembles the biblical story of Solomon's judgment. Two women claim to be the mother of a child. Solomon suggests cutting the child in half. The false mother agrees. The real mother begs him not to harm the child, even if it means giving it up. If Min Hee-jin were truly the NewJeans mom, instead of scolding ADOR for 2 versus 3 structure, she would take a step back, encourage the group to rebuild peacefully at ADOR, and draw clear boundaries. The answer was written thousands of years ago. Interesting. So yeah, this article accuses Min Hee-jin of deliberately reversing cause and effect, right? Pretending ADOR created the 2 versus 3 situation, even though it was the members who posted a unilateral statement through a law firm. And the journalist also brings up a detail that actually, yeah, we already talked about that. But the article uses a metaphor, right? Solomon's judgment. It implies that Min Hee-jin is the false mother, the one willingly to split the group in half while pretending to protect it. All right, 2 more articles. Yeah, if Min Hee-jin's actions look contradictory, the fandom's behavior looked downright suspicious, and the next article digs into that, the Team Bunnies. NewJeans fans launched a fax bombardment at the Ministry of Culture. Who are they really? Who are they really? Some NewJeans fans have staged a fax attack, sending a flood of complaints to the Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism, demanding an audit of ADOR. The group behind the campaign is known as Bunnies. The NewJeans fandom. Fans note that their behavior closely resembles that of Team Bunnies, a fandom group that has intervened at major turning points in the NewJeans controversy. A group that once called itself a team of experts, only to later claim it was run by a single minor, raising further questions about who they really are. According to the ministry, I'm going to skip this part because we have already talked about this in a separate video. When Team Bunnies was previously active, the article says, they also organized mass campaigns. At the start of their activities last year, they posted on their official social media, introducing themselves as a team of bunnies active across law, media, finance, culture, and the arts. In an interview featured in the book Kpop, Idols in a Strange Land, published in October, they claimed to have 2 to 6 members per team and said that a large number of people participate. Wait. So there's this book that came out a couple months ago, and Team Bunnies was interviewed? Oh wow, they are like literally the photos on the album cover are bunnies. Interesting. Who is behind this book? Is this worth digging into? And Kim Young-dae, the music critic Kim Young-dae, wrote like a recommendation message. And Kim Young-dae is a guy who has praised Min Hee-jin and even invited her to his YouTube channel for a session. The dots are there. And I guess this journalist has kind of connected the dots, even though the journalist isn't really digging further into the book itself. Anyways, according to what they said in the book, Team Bunnies claim to have 2 to 6 members per team and said that a large number of people participate. But on November 12th, Team Bunnies abruptly changed their explanation, saying they were a one-person group operated independently by a minor who split off from a music chart streaming team, and admitted there had been many shortcomings due to the one-person structure. They made this statement after police began investigating their fundraising for responding to malicious posts, which appeared to violate Korea's fundraising regulations, and after it was revealed that the group's representative was a minor. Despite the explanation, many still question who is actually behind Team Bunnies. After NewJeans lost the injunction case against ADOR this past March, Team Bunnies claimed they had contacted the members' parents and law firm Sejong, and that they subsequently had lengthy consultations with Sejong and 3 other major law firms. 3 former high-ranking judges, a prosecutor turned lawyer with 17 years of experience, and a former judge turned attorney. This raised eyebrows, as such actions would be highly unusual, if not impossible, for a single minor to carry out. Some industry insiders also questioned their motives when Team Bunnies released a supportive statement just 8 minutes after the 3 members announced their intention to return to ADOR, declaring they would forever support all 5 NewJeans members. Yeah, they put out the statement 8 minutes, only 8 minutes after the 3 members put out a statement through their law firm. Smells fishy. A Ministry of Culture official said, in addition to the faxes sent to the minister's office, similar complaints were filed through the National Civil Petition portal. Since they were submitted as formal complaints, the ministry will review them internally and confirm the relevant facts. Meanwhile, on October 30th, the court ruled in ADOR's favor. Actually, I'm going to skip this part. The rest of the article is about the summary. But overall, the fact that Team Bunnies claim to meet top lawyers, prosecutors, judges, and major law firms, that's, first of all, kind of weird. And it simply does not make sense that coming from a one-person minor team, as they claim. That is why the journalist openly questions whether this fandom is hiding other adults or groups behind it. And the timing, releasing a supportive statement 8 minutes after the 3-member return announcement, that made many industry insiders suspicious. And I've heard that Lee-Jun-ho, the reporter turned YouTuber, is digging deep into the identity of Team Bunnies. And he said, was it today? Yeah, he said today that he's getting close to finding out who is really behind the Team Bunnies. So we'll see. If there are any updates, I will let you guys know. All right, last but not least, the final article shows a legal perspective. And this one might matter more than public opinion. Okay? So this one is titled, Former Prosecutor Slams Min Hee-jin, saying this is a trash drama level lie that will be exposed immediately. This came out on November 20th. Former prosecutor turned attorney Min Kyung-chul sharply criticized Min Hee-jin behavior, calling it the kind of blatant lie you see in a trash morning drama or soap opera. On November 18th, attorney Min uploaded a video on the YouTube channel PopGPT titled Will Min Hee-jin Face Breach of Trust Charges? A prosecutor's view on the entire Min Hee-jin case. Yup, I have watched a portion of this video. PopGPT Min Hee-jin. Is it this one? Actually, PopGPT Min Yeah, it's this one. Let me see if the... Oh, there we go. Yep. It's this man. So in the video, the article says, he summarized the situation and addressed whether Min Hee-jin could be charged with breach of trust. He explained, breach of trust is one of the most complicated legal issues. You first need to understand who the victim of the breach would be. If you frame the victim as Bang Si-hyuk or HYBE, it becomes very difficult for the charge to stick. This is because it falls under a shareholder agreement, and parties can choose to honor or violate such agreements. Ideally, the parties fulfill the contract, but if not, they can simply compensate the resulting damages. So if you treat Bang Si-hyuk or HYBE as the victims, the likelihood of breach of trust is extremely low. He continued, but the story changes if you treat ADOR as a victim. As I mentioned, Min Hee-jin attempted two things. First, she tried to force HYBE to sell his shares in HYBE. Second, she tried to pull NewJeans out of ADOR. The first action is hard to treat as breach of trust because it stems from a shareholder agreement. But removing NewJeans from ADOR would be enormous damage to ADOR. He added, if NewJeans were removed, but ADOR received compensation equal to their value, then maybe it wouldn't count as damage. But right now, NewJeans is claiming, you have wronged us, so we cannot maintain this contract. We're terminating it. That's it. If the termination is accepted, ADOR's relationship with NewJeans ends. No financial compensation comes in. NewJeans leaves and ADOR gets nothing. Attorney Min explained further. But if this was artificially orchestrated, and by the very person who was CEO of ADOR at the time, then breach of trust could apply. I believe the evidence strongly suggests that Min Hee-jin intentionally tried to remove NewJeans from ADOR, and therefore breach of trust could be recognized. Attorney Min Kyung-chul then likened Min Hee-jin's actions to a soap opera or 아침 drama, morning drama. The story unfolding now surpasses soap operas. There are lies, and then there are lies so obvious you wonder how someone could expect them not to be exposed immediately. People say that those who lie habitually speak straight from their eyes and ears to their mouths without their brains interfering. He continued, that's exactly what we're seeing now. Evidence keeps emerging that suggests numerous lies, the kind you would expect at a trash morning drama, soap opera, were happening. In the end, the key question is what actions she took to separate NewJeans from ADOR. That is where prosecutors will dig. If clear circumstances emerge there, the likelihood that Min Hee-jin will be found guilty of breach of trust is very high. Wow. Okay. So that was the summary of this video that Attorney No made. Interesting. So this article, this video and this article, it shows the most serious potential consequence, which is a criminal charge for Min Hee-jin. And the lawyer outlines why breach of trust could apply if prosecutors conclude Min Hee-jin attempted to pull NewJeans out of ADOR intentionally while serving as ADOR CEO. And the soap opera drama comparison, that's notable because it expresses what many Koreans feel. Like, Min Hee-jin's lies were so obvious, too obvious, and too reckless. And the prosecutor's breakdown is important because it clarifies a line that many people misunderstand. Like, HYBE cannot easily claim breach of trust, but ADOR can, and the case becomes stronger if Min Hee-jin orchestrated the separation. And that's why the press the media keep returning to the same question. Did Min Hee-jin push the members to declare contract termination? And if so, can she be held criminally responsible? So after going through all these articles, again, the public conversation in Korea has shifted compared to a year ago, right? Thanks to her first press conference a year ago, Min Hee-jin could frame herself as the lone visionary fighting a giant corporation. But today, it's no longer the same, right? And the journalists' criticisms of her are super sharp, and they're pointing out the contradictions and the selective storytelling and the trail of collateral damage involving other artists, other labels, and even the members' own families. So whether every criticism is fair is something that people will debate, and I want to ask you guys. But the consistency across these pieces show that reporters are no longer giving her the benefit of the doubt. They're asking the same question, again, that people have been asking. How much of this chaos was avoidable, and how much of it was orchestrated? And if NewJeans is trying to return and stabilize, the biggest variable might not be the 5 members, actually. It might be the person who no longer works at ADOR, but continues to hover over every headline. So let me turn it to you before wrapping up. Which criticism in these articles felt the most justified? And looking at the entire timeline, do you think NewJeans can truly rebuild while Min Hee-jin is still publicly speaking like this? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Sorry if my enunciation kind of sucked in this video because I'm so sleepy right now and about to fall asleep. But I wanted to cover this issue because my gut tells me that some sort of new updates might arise next few days. We'll have to see. That might not be the case. But since we just got this article that Danielle and Minji already had their individual meetings with ADOR, yeah, some new updates might be there. So, as always, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy. Thank you guys. Peace and love. Bye-bye.